very quickly illustrate the critical importance of technical feedback, with the suggestion that if you're looking for how to get coaching started, finding out what your school's current staff development focus is and build your initial coaching to support the current staff development program. So if your staff development is looking at higher level thinking questions, then build your first round of coaching around who are the teachers who would like somebody to come in, take a look at their questions and give them feedback. If your school's doing staff development in literacy or math, then build your first round of coachings right around the same staff development that the teachers are getting. Okay? And then you can go into classrooms, and whenever you go into classrooms to model for a teacher, get the teachers to give you technical feedback on your modeling. So then they can ask you to give them the same technical feedback. Okay, now, let me show you the importance of this. Page 6 in your text. At the bottom of the page, on page 6, you have the research from Bruce Joyce and Beverly Showers on staff development. Table 1.1. When the only thing teachers got in staff development was theory or knowledge, 5% of the teachers could turn that theory or knowledge into a skill, but almost no one implemented it accurately in their classroom. Now, as you go down the page, they're adding. The next step, teachers got theory and they got it modeled. Now it jumps to 50% of the teachers in the workshop could implement the skill, but back in the classroom, only 5% of the teachers accurately applied it. Now, the next one is the one I call a kick in the head. The teachers got theory, modeling, practice with feedback. What is that? It's probably a 3 to 5 day summer institute. We probably paid teachers a stipend to attend. 90% of the teachers showed the workshop leader they were capable of doing what was taught in the workshop. And 5% of the teachers hit accurate implementation back in their classrooms with the training. Now look what happens when you added coaching. It jumped to 75 to 95% of the teachers that could implement it back in the classroom. So any investment that your school is making in staff development should be receiving technical feedback support. Okay. We have any questions on that? Okay. Add the next one then. Collegial coaching. With collegial coaching, your focus is on relationships. I've been doing a lot of work around the country with small learning communities at the high school level, with middle school houses, elementary teams, and I'm finding a resistance on teachers' parts to working in teams. And as I struggled to figure out where is some of that resistance coming from, it hit me that we're frequently asking teachers to work with people that they really don't know very well. So with collegial coaching, what the teachers are coaching is a little less important than the fact that through coaching, teachers are getting to know each other better. One of my favorite examples on that comes from a book by Susan Scott called Fierce Conversations. And Susan Scott in Fierce Conversations, she has this example. She says, many of our organizations function like a new marriage. She said, in a new marriage, you'll frequently find that the young man is concerned that this woman with whom he's looking to spend the rest of his life has a seemingly endless need to talk. Yet again, about the same thing we talked about last weekend. And it usually has something to do with our relationship. Why are we talking about this again, the young man wonders. I thought we settled it last weekend. Couldn't we just have one huge conversation about our relationship and then let it ride for a year or two? Evidently not, because here she is again. Susan Scott writes, if the young man is paying attention, it soon appears to him that this robust, dynamic, passionate conversation he is having with his wife about their relationship is not about their relationship. The conversation is the relationship. The conversation is the relationship. See, I'm finding many schools where teachers are not in conversation, connected to teaching and learning. And so without the conversation, schools can't build the trusting environment that would cause people to make themselves vulnerable. Vulnerable enough to take my student writing and to lay it out in front of 5 other teachers and ask them for input. Make myself vulnerable enough to go to my middle school team meeting and show a 10-minute clip of the opening of my lesson and ask my classmates, ask my teaching mates for input on it. Can we use coaching to build relationships back at our school sites? One of my favorite examples, I was working with a high school in northern Canada. Just to give you an idea of definition of northern, I went there in February. And they called my office and said, tell Steve to dress warmly. And my assistant said, how warm? And they said, 40 below. So my assistant said, is that Fahrenheit or Celsius? They said, it doesn't matter. It's the first school I was ever to that when you parked in the parking lot, every teacher had their own electrical outlet. Because when you got to school and parked your car, you had to plug it in so that there was an electric heater that would keep the oil from freezing up while you were in school, and your car would still be able to run when you got out to drive home. And they closed the school for 3 days, and I had all of the high school faculty together for 3 days of peer coaching training. And I had asked the teachers to make videotapes so that we could work with their videotapes. And the PE teacher had made a videotape. Now, if you ever had a stereotypical picture of a backwoods PE teacher, this gentleman would match your stereotype. Okay? He had hair like mine, but long. He had a beard like mine, but long. And every day he cross-country skied to school wearing a mask with 2 eye holes in it. And he'd get to the school and he'd prop his skis up outside and he'd take off his backpack and he'd come on into the school. So he and I sat, we had a little pre-conference, and then we watched his lesson. It was a girls' volleyball class he was teaching. And when the videotape was over, we had a little post-conference, and he picked an area that he wanted to work on to change in his teaching. And then I said to the group, well, let's take a break. And this woman walked up to me and she said, Stephen, thank you so much for what you've done today. And I looked at her and I said, well, you're welcome, but what have I done? She said, you showed me I have to get to know that man. And I couldn't figure out what she meant. She said, didn't you notice? He's a jerk. And I kind of froze. I didn't know how to respond. She said, he's such a jerk that when he comes into the faculty room, I leave. But she said, you just showed me today that when he's in the classroom with kids, he's a professional. And it dawned on me, how many colleagues back at your school have never seen each other work? And they really don't know professionally who people are. They don't know how far some teachers reach to touch the lives of kids.